Snow White's going with the flow, and we're in an electric state in Y2K. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Offscreen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
So welcome back to Offscreen then. Loads of movies to talk about this week. Before we dive into that, quick catch up with you, Van. Any movie goss from the week or anything you want to talk about from your holiday and your trip away?
I had a great trip away, thank you. I went to Prague last week, as we were just talking about off mic. And you know what? I randomly happened across the Film Special Effects Museum that was loads of like old-timey practical effects from like the 1920s through to kind of the 50s and 60s. And oh my God, some awesome stuff. I also went to the Museum of Illusions that had loads of cool stuff as well. And most importantly, I kind of buried the lead on this really. I found the bridge from the movie Triple X. So I found the bridge that Xander Cage stops the bioweapon just beneath, while Samuel L. Jackson is, I forget his Gibbons, as Director Augustus Gibbons and Asia Argento are on the bridge, like trying to, cheering him on. I found that bridge. So
Did you get a selfie on it though?
I did, in fact, take selfies on the Triple X.
Thought you might. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Welcome to my life. You're asking about you said about events in the world of film. We had learned a really weird thing this week as well. Apparently, there was going to be an 11th Saw movie.
Yeah.
As far as I knew, that was meant to come out last Halloween, and then it's moved to this Halloween. And apparently, that's not going to happen. Apparently, it's been dead for over a year, and it had just been kept quiet. Apparently, development on it stopped a year ago. No one can explain why. Such is the mystery of the film industry. Other weird thing we learned this week: that new Star Wars movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, apparently is the cheapest Star Wars movie ever made at 160 million. Like of all of them, it's the cheapest one. The record holder apparently before this was Revenge of the Sith. So I'd imagine this is like adjusted for inflation.
I was going to say, but that said, it's cheaper and easier to do good effects these days than it was in the past. So maybe it's relative.
I don't know. Is it though? Because we use more effects now. So, like you used to only pay a special effects company to do like a dozen shots in our movie. Now you pay like a dozen effects companies to do hundreds of shots a piece in a movie. So even if it's cheaper, it sort of spreads out because we have so many more visual effects in there. However,
maybe the whole movie is special effects, and that might be why.
I'm glad you brought up visual effects though, because visual effects do tie in a strange way to our first movie of the week.
Yeah,
actually. So you wouldn't think it, right? Brace yourself, because I swear to God, I might have just found the most Adam Ball movie ever made.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you said that, because I've seen a bit of the trailer, and I was going to start by saying to you, "Oh, this looks like the Hot Tub Time Machine kind of movie," which I did not enjoy.
No, not quite like that. Right, brace yourself. Did you ever see This Is the End? With Seth Rogen and Jay Baruchel and James Franco, where they played themselves, but they were locked in a mansion during the end of the world, during the apocalypse.
No, I didn't. I didn't see that.
It's a good movie. It's got a brilliant Backstreet Boys cameo in it as well, and yeah, I'm saving some surprises. This is a lot like that in a sense. So it's co-written, and also directed by Kyle Mooney. So Kyle Mooney is, I don't think he's still an SNL alum, but he was on Saturday Night Live for a good few years and had previously written and directed and starred in a movie that I really enjoyed back in about 2018. I don't know if I talked to you about it at the time, called Brigsby Bear, which I think is fantastic and everybody should see it. He is now back with Y2K, which stars Jaden Martell from the It movies, from Knives Out, he was in that one as well, and Rachel Ziegler, who is, in two movies this week. There's overlap between the stories of two of our movies and overlap between two of the cast of our movies this week. So Ziegler's in two, and we've got two that deal with robots. Anyway. So, weird week. Ziegler and Rachel and the Robots, we should have called this episode. Anyway, so Rachel Ziegler and Jaden Martell are kind of our leads. Jaden Martell and his best mate, Julian Dennison, are introduced to us sort of Superbad style. It's New Year's Eve, 1999. They are about 16, 17 years old, thereabouts. They're kind of, they're typical 15, 16-year-old losers in 1999. Really, baggy jeans, neon shirts, things like that, puka shell necklaces. And they all have a New Year's Eve party on 1999. Jaden Martell wants to get with his dream girl, who's Rachel Ziegler, of course. And you might remember that night, famously, Adam, there was a bit of a panic about a certain technological phenomenon.
Yeah, I remember. We all thought the world was going to blow up and our bank accounts are going to be emptied when we woke up on New Year's Day.
Yeah, we all thought the ending of Fight Club was going to happen. It did not. However, in this movie, it does. And all of the machines start to come alive and use other dumb, like non-intelligence-based machines to graft onto themselves to form bodies. So the robot uprising is here. And it's going to party like it's 1999. Have a listen. This is from Y2K.
A Tamagotchi just drilled through a chick's head.
Come on, we gotta go.
We're experiencing major problems as a result of the Y2K breakdown.
Bye-bye, human race.
We're talking global computer apocalypse.
They made a video and everything. That's crazy. You don't know how this works.
Grab a bike, grab a board, grab whatever you can.
This has been the night of my life.
Fuck this!
But it's cool that we got to hang out for once.
Best line so far was at the very start of that. Tamagotchi's just drilled through a chick's head.
Very much that kind of. So I was amazed when I was putting the script together for this episode. One of the last things I do every week is I go and check the age ratings for all the films. And I had just assumed this was a 15. It is quite a gory one. But then when I checked the age rating, it was an 18. So I went and checked. And yes, it is deemed to be quite an excessively gory movie. And it is. It's a very hyper-violent, gory slapstick, very in the vein of This Is the End type horror comedy, for lack of a better. I mean, it veers more on the sillier side of the comedy. But yeah, horror comedy, really. I would say This Is the End is probably the right balance to look for if you're looking for a comparison point. Jaden Martell, perfectly fine in the lead, sort of standard, about the ability I've come to expect from Jaden Martell. Julian Dennison's getting a bit one note. I will say this, as the best mate, the sort of the Jonah Hill type, in this, it's getting a bit one note. And I know he was a child actor, and he's only now about 20 years old, and so he's still really young and hasn't really settled in his career as yet. But just he might want to his agent needs to have a chat with him, because this is getting a bit repetitive. It's fine, but it's repetitive. Go and ask T.J. Miller how that turns out. So all I'm saying. Right. Rachel Ziegler as Manic Pixie Dream Girl in this works very, very well. We will talk more about her later on. She's got screen appeal here. It really works. It's kind of a shtick that she's kind of a 1999 alt girl. I mean, I'll be really honest. She would have been my absolute dream woman in 1999 when I was 16 years old. I'm not going to deny that for absolute. Probably your dream woman in 1999 as well. She's got the look down perfectly. You know what I mean? It's the perfect Manic Pixie.
I mean, the whole look of the film is just great, because I'm watching the trailer sort of it's so 90s. It's brilliant.
And if you've got the trailer on, you might have noticed a thing about this, which you can't avoid from the marketing. They've not kept it secret. There is an extended cameo by Fred Durst as himself in this movie. And it literally is Fred Durst playing Fred Durst. He's leaning into it. They're going down the idle hands route of he's seen the band die and describes it to us in graphic detail. It's good fun. I actually really enjoyed it. I don't think it's going to be particularly everyone's cup of tea, but certainly on the nostalgia level it works. On the This Is the End level it works. But if you're not connected to either the nostalgia or that kind of a tone, this will not work for you. Having said that, I am connected to both of those. I thought it was really good fun.
You're right. On paper, it's absolutely a movie written for me. What I would like to know is, why has it taken 25 years to come up with this?
Because This Is the End, as I told you, had the end of the world comedy thing, and the gimmick of these actors are playing themselves. They're playing satirized versions of themselves. Here, instead of the actor bit, you have the period piece bit. So they mine a lot of comedy out of it. There is
Right.
actual plot-specific comedy. Because bear in mind, Y2K. So there's also anachronistic humour about things that we know is are going to be entirely different 25 years later. So there's some
Right.
fun had with that. To be fair, this also fits Carl Mooney's MO if you happen to see Brigsby Bear, because that is a retro VHS kind of fan culture throwback as well. So he seems to have a thing about this. I will hook you up with a link to Brigsby Bear, by the way. It's so good, honestly. If you've never seen anyone who's never seen Brigsby Bear, please see Brigsby Bear. It's amazing. And Mark Hamill's in it. We should all show Mark Hamill some. But yeah, Y2K, good fun. It's the best movie about robots out this week. I will say that. I'm going to say that actually straight off the bat. It's the best movie about robots, and it's the best movie with Rachel Ziegler in. So as far as our Rachel and the Robots episode goes, this is the best Rachel and the best robots. Okay, so there you go. Y2K is leading strong this week.
Well, there you go. And you can go and see it whenever you like because it's in cinemas from today. Still to come then, we're going to look at Flow, The Electric State, and also next, we'll see what Van thought to the new Disney's Snow White. Stay where you are. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. So we are still going to look at The Electric State in a moment, which is that's on Netflix, actually, isn't it? That's
That
not,
is a Netflix
that's not
one.
cinema.
That is not only that. Not only is that a Netflix one. That is, I believe, currently the most expensive movie ever made, or at least one of the most expensive movies ever made. 320 mil they spent.
Wow. Okay, well, I really want to hear your review on that then in a moment. That's coming up next, and we're going to look at Flow as well, which is in cinemas from today. But we are diving into a movie now that I'm quite keen to find out what it's like, because my other half has booked tickets already for her and her daughter to go and see Disney's Snow White. So, over to you, Van.
Right, I know that your other half's daughter is really excited about this, and
So's the other half.
And bless her, you said she's 9. I imagine she's going to enjoy this. I suspect your other half less so. Right, so new entry into the ever expanding canon of Disney live action adaptations of their own versions, obviously. This would, by my count, be the third live action Snow White movie in 15 years.
Wow.
And I say that only because in 2011, 2012, when I was starting out in reviewing, we had a year in which we had 2 of them go head to head, and those were Mirror Mirror, with, I believe, Julia Roberts as the evil queen, and Snow White and the Huntsman, which had Charlize Theron as the queen, if memory serves. Here, we have Gal Gadot as the queen. So if you're wondering who the worst actress to play the evil queen in the Snow White movie in the last 15 years is, we have a new answer to that question. Because Gal Gadot is in this movie. So, not to bury the lead. Okay, so it's Snow White, the same story you've always known. The legitimate heir to the throne of the Disney-like kingdom that the evil witch-like queen has installed herself in and murdered the king. Snow White basically works as a hired hand around, scullery maid around the castle, until one day the queen decides to have her killed. She's let go by the huntsman sent to kill her, dispatched to kill her, and she runs away into the forest where she is taken in by 7 dwarves, who I always thought were meant to be brothers. Was that a thing? Did you have this? Did you think the dwarves were meant to be brothers?
I did. I assumed they were
not.
brothers.
Right,
Oh.
no, I always assumed this, okay? And in this movie, they specify that they are not brothers. They're not
Wow,
brothers, they're
okay.
just a bunch of blokes. They're
I suppose it would have been called Snow White and the 7 Brothers if that was the case.
quite possible, yeah. I mean, on the other hand, maybe we're just assuming they were related because they were all dwarves. What are the odds of having 7 in the same place at the same time? They weren't related. Anyway, so Snow White is taken in by 7 dwarves who run this lucrative mining operation, lucrative non-unionized mining operation, as we know from Ghostbusters 2. And she befriends a local bandit played by, I had his name here, Andrew Burnap. Sorry, I lost the thing where Rachel Ziegler is Snow White. So Andrew Burnap is the local bandit who sort of takes the place of the prince here. The queen discovers she's still alive and sets out, disguised as an evil witch, to poison and kill Cinderella, Snow White. And look, you know the story of Snow White. Why am I telling you? Here's a clip from Snow White 2025.
Your Majesty, people are struggling, and it may not be much, but when I was young, my parents and I we'd pick apples. We'd take them and make pies, then go out into the village.
Pies are luxuries. They don't need luxuries. It confuses them.
But sometimes something small, something sweet even, can make you believe that there's more to being alive than mere subsistence.
You know, I really don't remember you being this opinionated.
My apologies. It's just, I feel they need some kindness.
Fearless, fair, brave, true. How quaint.
Personally, and this is just my opinion on stuff like this, I think when you're covering something like a fairy tale, once is enough.
Right. I mean, you've got to bear in mind what this represents as well. Okay. Do you remember Wish, the animated movie Wish? A year or so ago, we reviewed that. That was released as the Disney 100 movie, right? That was the 100th anniversary of Disney, and that was the movie they put out to mark that. Now, I remember at the time thinking that it was really strange that they chose to do that and not use the live action version of Snow White, given that, which at that point was still a year away from release. But it would have made more sense given that Snow White was the iconic movie that started Walt Disney Animation back in 1937. So it would have made sense to bookmark the films with that would have made more sense. Right. I actually think, had they done that, it would have been even more of a remarkable example of where Disney is at as a brand and as a studio than even Wish turned out to be. And Wish was pretty funny in terms of how hollow it really was. This feels about as perfunctory as it gets. About the least offensive thing about it is Rachel Zegler. Rachel Zegler's giving a perfectly fine performance. However, she is miscast. Or is she? Because I can't quite tell. The script, which is by Aaron Cressida Wilson, who did the adaptation of The Girl on the Train a few years ago. The script is, as you can hear from that clip, so boilerplate, it's unreal. Right? Then you've got Gal Gadot, who is spectacularly bad in it. Like, she's trying, and you can hear it in that clip as well. You can hear, I am trying for menace. And can be like, no, I think this is actually, no.
So would you say overacting it then? Is that what you mean?
No, I just think, right, I'm trying to find a delicate way to phrase this. Right.
Don't be delicate.
Don't be delicate. Okay, Wonder Woman came from the island she came from. There was a certain performance that was okay to pull off with Wonder Woman as regards the accent. Gal Gadot has never lost that accent, and it's usually been baked into the characters. And the thing is, here, as with all of those other characters, it's a really thin mask for bad acting. She can't act. She's terrible here. The less said about Andrew Burnap as the romantic lead, the better as well. He's got no charisma to speak of. And then we get to the dwarves. And, oh my God, the dwarves. Right. So what they've done with this, okay, is most of the environment is meant to look like it's photorealistic. And then you've got photorealistic looking animals who interact with her the same way that they did with Cinderella. For instance, they don't talk, but they make their animal noises and they sort of interact with, like R2-D2. You're not speaking, but you hear the chimes of the... But with animal noises. Okay, this all makes sense. This is all photorealistic so far. Then you get the dwarves, who have been made to look like their animated 1937 Disney versions, but made of actual flesh. Right?
What? That just sounds bizarre.
Yeah, so the seven dwarves, but with human skin. Right? Which means, of course, that there's like a beating heart, veins, functioning eyeballs, sweat, all that stuff. Which is not a thing I really want to think about with the Seven Dwarfs when they look like their 1937 animated counterparts. It is bizarre. Also, the Dopey design, the sort of redesigned Dopey, and it just doesn't work. I can't tell if it's a redesign or if it's a translation to a more live-action looking style of animation. It's a weird redesign. It doesn't quite work. But again, yeah, Rachel Zegler, fine, but she just feels like she's a musical theatre actor rather than she's a musical feature performer rather than any kind of a character actress. And when you combine that with a film that looks like this, that feels like this, that is perfunctory as this, that doesn't make any changes really to the mythology outside of the origin of the love interest, like it's the same boilerplate story, but point for point, to the extent where, like I said, your other half's daughter is going to have a great time, I'm sure. Your other half is not. I think she's going to be bored. I think she's going to be like, wow, really? This story takes 1 hour and 49 minutes. That's a lot for what's not really much of a story. When you see it actually played out in live action without any of the extra bells and whistles, because remember, the ones 15 years ago did both add new things to it. They both did different versions. This is just the straight Disney version. Like Lion King, they've made no changes. It's grayed out on the colour spectrum. And on top of that, you've got this really poor costume on Cinderella that just looks like cheap cosplay. Because they've gone for the exact look of the animated character without translating it. And it just doesn't work. And you come away just feeling like you're watching a grayed out cosplay reenactment, like a Sweden version. If you ever saw Be Kind Rewind back in about 2008 with Jack Black, like you're watching the Sweden version of Disney's Snow White in live action, but for some reason it's cost an obscene amount of money. I didn't enjoy it. I mostly just felt like I was going through. I wasn't bored with it until it got to some of the musical numbers, which I thought were a bit eh. The new ones in particular are very sub-wicked, which is not a term I ever thought I'd have to say out loud. But they didn't feel... I just felt like I was back on Wicked territory. Hi-Ho and Whistle While You Work obviously work exactly as well in this context as they did in the original. But yeah, I think if you're a young child, you've never seen any other version, you've not seen the original Snow White, you've not formed an attachment to it, in much the same way that my 6-year-old nephew has not formed an attachment to the original animated Dumbo, but loves the Tim Burton live-action Dumbo, I think you'd have a similar thing going on here.
Well, there you go. You can go and see Snow White, Disney's Snow White, the new version, 2025, yeah, in cinemas.
They put Disney's before the title because we keep chucking out new versions of Snow White. So we have to, which one's Disney's? It says Disney's before the title, yeah.
True. It makes it easier to find. Disney's Snow White in cinemas from today. Right, stay right where you are because we are going to be talking about a movie next that you can see if you subscribe to Netflix already for free. It's called The Electric State, and we'll see what Van thought of that next. Hello and welcome back to Offscreen. We have got 2 more movies to look at. We're going to talk about Flow in a moment, but we are back onto another robot movie. This is called The Electric State, and if you subscribe to Netflix, then this will be free for you to watch because it is available on Netflix from today. So all I know really about this is, it's a robot movie.
Effectively, it is based on, I think, what's been described as an illustrated novel. It's not a graphic novel. It's not like a comic book. It is an illustrated novel, apparently, by Simon Stalenhag, I believe. I'm told the book is very, very good. My friend Calvin, one who runs the bookstore, obviously reads all this stuff and has told me the book is very good. And he was dreading the film. And having seen the film, I did get in touch with him and went, yeah, you should keep dreading that film. Not to bury the lead. Not to bury the lead, but this whole Russo Brothers Netflix thing is not exactly bearing fruit, is all I'm going to say in advance. Right, so new movie from Joe and Anthony Russo. Directors of, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and most notably, The Grey Man, with Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans on Netflix about 2 years ago. That was, when it got made, one of the most expensive movies ever made, and everybody hated it. The same is going to happen again. History loves to repeat itself with these two. They have also reunited with Avengers composer Alan Silvestri on the score. You've got Marcus and McFreely on the script. You've got the Avengers cinematographer. Basically, everyone who worked on those last 2 Avengers movies is here.
Okay.
It was $320 million adaptation of this story in which robots were invented by Walt Disney for Disneyland. in the 1950s. And in an alternate timeline, they then continued to evolve. They became household butlers, effectively, until a robot uprising in the early to mid 1990s, in which humanity then went to war with robots. Now, in 1999, funnily enough, because we've got two movies set, we've got two Rachels, two robots, and we've got Rachel and robots in 1999 in both cases. How weird.
I know, bizarre.
Very strange. We've got Millie Bobby Brown is our lead here, however. This is Millie Bobby Brown in the relatively recent blonde form, by the way. If you're keeping tabs of your Millie Bobby Brown looks through the years, this is the blonde iteration of Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah, she changes rapidly.
She changes rapidly. It's just to let you know which version you're in for. This is the blonde one. In what looks like a sort of Mad Max hellscape with loads of desiccated robots.
I can see now on the trailer that's playing in silent. Yes.
She is a sort of young scavenger type. She finds she's an orphan living with a sort of neglectful stepdad who spends his days in VR. One day she comes across a robot that seems to have the consciousness of her dead brother inside it, and she sets out on a journey to reunite this robot with what she suspects is his long-lost missing body, teaming up with a trucker / war veteran played in full Star-Lord Thor era mode by Chris Pratt, and his robot sidekick, and they go on a journey being chased by a bad guy played by Giancarlo Esposito along the way. Think The Creator with a bit of Chappie thrown in for good measure, but aimed at sort of family audiences and costing more money than most small nations' gross national products. Have a listen. This is The Electric State. This is Chris Pratt explaining how he and his robot sidekick came to be a duo.
How'd you two meet?
We actually met in the war.
We're supposed to be killing each other?
We tried. Bots had my whole platoon surrounded, broke my leg in two. 10 men circled up to finish off the job. I look up, I see this big dumb construction bot peering down at me. I close my eyes, get ready to die, and instead he just lifts me up, carries me out.
You were crying like a baby.
Yeah, right. Not like a baby. You know, they don't really know human emotion. It was a war cry, like, yeah, Wolverines!
Please, you were sucking your thumb and begging me to save your ass.
He's correct.
So, two things. Firstly, a positive. The CGI looks great in this. Like, it does look like...
for 320 million better.
Yeah. And actually, that leads me to my next question. 320 million quid. Answer me this. So they've spent so much on it. Why has it gone straight to Netflix and not in the cinema? Because surely they make more money in the cinema.
That's the Netflix way, isn't it? I think they knew this was never going to be up for awards consideration, so it didn't warrant even the typical week of theatrical exhibitions. So this has gone straight to the platform. It's one of those things. It's from the directors of Avengers Endgame, so by touting that, it's getting subscriptions signed up for, isn't it?
Right.
And ultimately, don't mince words. That's all Netflix ultimately cares about. They only want to win an Oscar so that they can use it to lure more people into subscribing for Netflix. That's the end of it. That's the end product for them. For a traditional film studio, the end product is we want your ticket money. For Netflix, the end product is we want your subscription money.
320 million, though, that's a lot of subscriptions.
It's a lot of cheddar. That's a lot of cheddar to spend on a film, especially one as absolutely unimaginative as this. I rather liked The Creator. Right, the Gareth Edwards one with Washington, John David Washington, in there. I thought that was very good. This feels a lot like a dumbed-down Stranger Things answer to that. But at the same time, it is so hollow, and it's so obviously from the same studio system that brought you both The Grey Man and Free Guy. And I'm thinking of Free Guy specifically, in fact, Free Guy / Ready Player One. because there is a lot of that in here. There's a sort of weird product placement mentality where it ceases to be product placement and it simply becomes the reality of the universe. And if you think of like Free Guy, when Ryan Reynolds spontaneously develops the Captain America shield and then the Hulk hand and then the lightsaber, and it's because it's not product placement anymore. We just become so immune to this that we can just chuck it in, Robot Chicken style, and run with it. This does a very similar thing with an entire central character. And this is the leader of the Robot Rebellion, who is played for the screens, voiced by Woody Harrelson. And he is playing, Planters Peanuts, Planters Peanut Butter, or Planters Peanuts.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Mr. Peanut. And the mascot.
Yeah.
That's an actual character in this movie. And he's an important political character in this story. Voiced by Woody, and you're watching it thinking, I'm watching one of the most expensive works of cinema ever created, in which Woody Harrelson is playing a live-action, animatronic, robotic version of the Planters Peanut mascot. This really is the darkest timeline. And, yeah, I mean, it's very hollow. Like, everything about it feels like a piece of a better film ripped off. Like a Frankenstein's monster of organs harvested from better movies. I mean, everything about the Chris Pratt character is just a crapper Star-Lord. Even down to the fact that because it's set in 1999, right? And the human race has basically been extinct for like 5 years, all of the pop culture references have to be a bit dated. So, having Chris Pratt do that when we've already sat through, by my count, 6 movies of him as Star-Lord, in which he does exactly that. Like, are you kidding me? This is really the one trick you want to put on that pony? Like, there's not better things you could be doing with Chris Pratt than let's just have him show up and make jokes about Marky Mark. Like, come on. And then, of course, Billy Bob Brown is really only playing the sort of 11 type, chosen one, destiny nonsense. And yet again, she's running around after some mop head tween that we don't care about. And you know what I mean? Like that is Millie Bobby Brown's lot in life, is simply to be paid a small fortune by Netflix to run around saving mop-headed tween-age boys that we interchangeably could not tell apart, if we're being honest.
You say a small fortune. I don't think it's a small fortune at all, if I'm quite honest.
And to be fair, though, I mean, like, Millie Bobby Brown is good value for money, from what I can gather. I mean, she's got a good deal going with Netflix. Like, she had Stranger Things, obviously. She was the big breakout star of Stranger Things, and that was one of the big breakout shows of Netflix. And then, of course, they chucked money at her for Enola Holmes. She did the 2 Enola Holmes movies.
She was good in that.
She was pretty good fun in that, and then obviously this as well. So she's obviously got that thing going with Netflix. They will keep like chucking money to get her to do this stuff forever. Look, all I'm saying is Lucasfilm should just join the bandwagon here and just give us some young Leia adventures. Just get this done while she's young. Like, make it happen.
Well, if you already subscribe to Netflix, you can watch it for free. The Electric State is there right now.
I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, it's 2 hours and 8 minutes that you are going to feel like you want to watch The Creator instead. But just saying. In fact, you know what? If it makes people watch The Creator again, or give The Creator a second chance or a first chance, I'm all for it. Go watch this, and then hopefully you'll all see The Creator because of it.
Well, there you go. We're going to move on to Flow, an animated adventure movie next. So we're going to end all happy, hopefully. Well, that's up to Van. We'll see what he thought of it next. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen then for one last ride. We are going to dive into the world of Flow, which is an animal adventure, animated, computer animated, what else does it say? Survival, animation, family fantasy.
That would be a good way of describing it, actually. So this, first and foremost, this won Best Animated Feature at the Oscars a few weeks ago. So this was the surprise winner that pipped The Wild Robot to that podium. You know what I mean? Like, you and I both loved us some Wild Robot, didn't we, man?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, somehow, unexpectedly, this pipped it to the power star. I thought it was between Wild Robot and Wallace and Gromit, but no, Flow literally flew in there. So, this is a Latvian movie Latvian-made movie by Gints Zilbaladis. It has been made using Blender. You know the application Blender? Are you familiar with Blender at all?
Isn't that the kind of cheap editor that you can download?
Right, close in both regards. Right, it's not cheap; it's free.
Ooh.
And it's not so much an editor as it is a visual effects design. It's a full three-dimensional visual effects design package. And the whole appeal with it is because it's free and open source. People can design their own plugins, or they can have free plugins. Now, when it comes to creating animation, it also has physics simulations. So you can create animation, for instance, and then download a water simulation plugin that allows you to simply have an area filled with real, physically accurate, computer-generated water. And that's how Blender works. So what they have done for this work of animation is they have created a seemingly near photorealistic world with some animated animals. There is no dialogue. Our central character is a cat who, because there is no dialogue, we, I guess, simply have to know as Cat. We refer to as Cat. And Cat is in the woods on their own one day. I don't know if Cat is male or female. I'm just going to say there, Cat is on their own one day in the woods, just trying to get a drink, when they are set upon by a pack of dogs. As they flee and chase one another, there is then a flood that absolutely decimates the wooded valley that they are in, and Cat finds themselves literally flung into the water, clinging to a branch, eventually finding their way to a boat that is occupied by a beaver, and then comes to be occupied by a lemur, and then also comes to be occupied by a bird, and
it's Noah's Ark.
Dogs. And effectively what you get are these disparate animals joining forces for this effectively wordless survival journey as they just attempt to survive this flood. Now, sometimes in a boat together, sometimes going their separate ways and then reuniting. I say, no dialogue, all animated, all gorgeous, all heart. I absolutely loved this. I didn't expect to. Because I'll be honest, it took me a minute to get used to the animation, because the animation on the animals themselves is a different style to everything else.
Yeah.
So it's got a bit of a cel-shaded look. It kind of looks very early 2000s in that sort of polygon shading kind of a look to it, which is again 3D, kind of CAD nerd talk there. If you know anyone who's doing 3D modeling, they'll be very familiar with the poly count that's on these animals, for instance. I thought this was, as I say, its real strength came from its performance of its animals, not so much just in the physicality of them, which has been very well designed, because every single animal moves and feels like a physical animal, even though you are literally looking at an animated character. But that animated cat still moves and has the physical weight of a cat. Like, you don't feel like you don't feel like it's weightless. You don't feel like it's too heavy. It's the Goldilocks. It feels exactly right. If you could reach into your screen and pick up that cat, it would weigh the exact amount it should. You know what I mean? It's that kind of animation. But as well as that physicality, the emotive character performances that you get from the animals interacting with one another, it's kind of like when I told you that you could watch The Raid without subtitles or on mute. And I told you that in actuality, the story is performed so emotively that it doesn't need dialogue. You can pick up that story just through emotive performance alone. And Flow proves that very conclusively. I honestly think, and as well, because they're lovely animals, they're lovely cutesy animals, so it gets that level of engagement as well. I've been looking after my mum the past few days after an injury, and I had this screener for this on, and even my mum got something. I'm only 61 years old, and even she has no time for animation usually, unless my nephew's under her care and has got the TV on. She got caught up in this as well. Like, really started verbally rooting for this cat, like cheering this cat on. And when you eventually show this to Albert, when you eventually show this to your son, he is going to adore this. He really is going to be one of his favourites.
I can see why this works, though, because essentially what they've done that's really clever here is they've created a movie that's got no humans in it and it's just animals. But of course, that's how we interact with animals anyway, because they don't talk.
Exactly. So it's kind of genius on several levels. Yeah, I was really won over by Flow.
It looks beautiful.
It is. It's a gorgeous film, but it's gorgeous both visually and emotionally. Like, it really gets you in the feels. And I say this as someone who absolutely despises cats, but I really loved this one. So there you go.
Well, it's called Flow. If you want to go and see it, you can, because it's in cinemas from today.
Actually, I will say as well, it's real strength, and as well as being a very well animated film, it's also a very well made film, as in the style of cinematography they've used for it, I think the camera movement, etc. All very, very well done.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been watching the trailer and it does look stunning. It looks really good, and I can kind of see actually that it's an emotional kind of movie and pulls on the heartstrings in the right places. So go and grab it.
You will be weeping, my boy, weeping.
We are a family that will sit on the sofa and all bawl our eyes out at a sad movie. That does happen, so I'm sure this will be no exception. In cinemas from today, look for Flow. Let's have a little chat about movie of the week, because I don't really know which way you're going to go on this one.
Y2K.
Y2K.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I know I'm biased because obviously I was the age the characters are at that point in history. So obviously I have that extra level of nostalgia for it. But yeah, ugh. But you know what? I don't care. It's my prerogative.
There you go. All right. Coming up next week, then, let's have a little poke at some that we've got to talk about. Odessa. Why do I recognise the name of that?
I have no idea. This stars Sadie Sink, also from Stranger Things. I think this one is a Disney Plus one. So it's a movie stars Sadie Sink from Stranger Things and has been described as a post-apocalyptic musical. There was a screening the other night, but because of the whole mum thing, I wasn't able to go. But I've not spoken to friends who went to that screening yet, so I'm looking forward to finding out.
Mad Max meets Wicked.
Wicked
exactly, yeah. Time Travel is Dangerous.
New Brit comedy, I believe. I don't know an awful lot about this one, but I have got a screener link coming, so I will let you know on that one. I can tell you that we have got a new Blumhouse horror movie next week, though. So we've got The Woman in the Yard with Danielle Deadwyler, which, if you don't know about this one, it's like a family and they live in a sort of like rural farmhouse type. You know where Shyamalan movies are always set. And one day, a woman in a black veil just like turns up outside their house and just stands there and doesn't leave. She's the woman in the yard.
They're the creepiest ones, though, aren't they? The people like that. It's like that. Like that truck one that I mentioned to you. What's that proper 70s movie where it's about a big lorry that just follows this guy in a car everywhere, and he sees him in his mirror and he tries to ram him off the road? And
it could be any one of any number of films.
I'll have to find out what it's called. It scarred me as a child, and it was literally just a guy driving to a gas station, and then this big silver lorry pulls up, and then it follows him everywhere. I'll find it.
Childhoods.
Also next week, A Working Man. Don't know anything about this.
Do you not know what it is? Oh,
no.
Mate. Oh, mate. Right. Okay. Funnily enough, today I had, as I was doing the prep for the show, I was flicking through the Sky glass thing and just trying to find something in vain, struggling to put some background viewing on. And I came across The Beekeeper with Jason Statham, and it was it was literally about 10 minutes in, and I watched the whole thing. Again, Mum was around, so she going to. Mum loves Statham, and of course, A Working Man is the new Statham movie, and it is from the director of The Beekeeper. And you remember how in The Beekeeper he was the most lethal man alive, but his cover was he kept bees. This time around, he's the most lethal man alive, but his cover is he's a construction worker. So. The Statham game continues, and I'll never not root for him. I've got the screening on Wednesday, I think, and I will be there with bells on. You know how I feel about the Stath.
Yeah, and it's justified.
It is justified. It is absolutely justified. But just give me a new Jason Statham action. I mean, honestly, the trailer honestly had this whole thing where they set up like the scheme the bad guys were doing to like Jason Statham's friends, and the minute they show you that Jason Statham is on a building site surrounded by breeze blocks, and like 4 men approach him, like, oh, you've just sold me the movie. Just cut there, just cut to black, and then have the title. And you've just sold me a ticket. But then they take it a step further and they have the words, Jason Statham is a working man. I think it's very true. Jason Statham is in fact a working man. His job is just to play this character over and over again until he has gone through all of the occupations in Western society.
Yeah, what's he going to be next? The pool man?
No, the pool man, that was Chris Pine.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, Chris Pine was the pool man, and Aaron Eckhart was the bricklayer, before you ask.
He's running out of occupations.
Yeah, I still maintain we've still not had the janitor yet, so, that'll happen.
Well, we'll talk about the A working man on next week's show. That is, of course, all we have time for this week. We will be back next week. Until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.